I love science because science keeps you honest. You can't go very far off the beaten path of truth or you get bad bit in the butt. Sorry, you probably can't use that. And in pharmaceutical, you not only have the science keeping you honest, but I just can't imagine anybody who would want to play fast and loose with something that could hurt somebody.
For most of the 20th century, cancer-fighting drugs were like World War II bombers. They dropped thousands of bombs, hoping that a few would get lucky and hit the target. But new generations of drugs target individual disease cells. Bringing such drugs to market is a huge challenge. The idea must be proven, and investors must be found who are willing to support the company, perhaps for a decade or more without profit. The technology must be developed, patented, and aggressively protected from theft. Then the drug must be tested for unexpected, sometimes deadly side effects. If they are found, the company might go bankrupt, or hundreds of people could die. At every step, the company must ask hard ethical questions. Should it release a product before it's been proven safe in order to make profits for investors? Risk permanently injuring test subjects to assure there's no side effects to the drug? These questions are agonizing for people who, at heart, simply want to help ease the suffering of millions stricken with disease. Raven Biotechnologies is a company that reduces many of these problems before they pop up. Their unique monoclonal technology attacks only the cancer cells, reducing any side effects and damage to healthy tissues.
A monoclonal technology is the ability to take the immune system and outside the body clone out a single cell that makes a single antibody so that we can make lots of those cells and lots of those antibodies, each specifically attacking a single disease cell like a cancer or a bacteria or a virus like a flu.
But even with great technologies, Raven must still do a careful balancing act, building on existing technology without violating patents, easing the suffering of the poor while paying the astronomical costs of drug development. These are questions of ethics, and only companies of great character achieve great results while maintaining their integrity in the face of tempting shortcuts. In Native American lore, it was Raven who defied the gods and brought fire and the sun and moon to humanity. Jenny Mather liked that imagery and chose to call her own biotechnology company Raven. Raven's decision to serve a greater good by breaking the old rules was an ethical choice. Ethics are a society's rules for judging right from wrong. Individuals, organizations, the government, and companies are all expected by society to follow ethical guidelines.
In terms of ethics with regards to doing right from wrong, obviously with regards to the biotech community, we're regulated by the FDA, but internally we have a number of steps which we take with our teams, whether they be quality assurance or quality control, in order to drive and make sure that we're feeding the correct information to both the clinical centers as well as to the FDA. We wouldn't make false claims, for instance, to make the stock price come up. We also would not fail to report certain adverse events, for instance, with some of our drugs so that the stock price doesn't drop.
During the bicentennial of 1976, another revolution was happening in the U.S. as health-conscious Americans were eating better, jogging, and buying home fitness equipment. That same year, a group of scientists in the fledgling biotechnologies industry started Genentech, the first company to take a genetically based approach to developing medicine. Jenny worked at Genentech for 15 years.
A lot of medicine before was either surgery or using chemicals that were not native to the body, whereas biotechnology uses chemicals that the body makes or proteins that the body makes.
30 years later, an American crisis finds morbidity rates from common preventable diseases at an all-time high. Obesity affects more people and from an earlier age, increasing the risks of heart disease, diabetes, and the most terrifying disease of all, cancer. Yet despite an explosion of technology, Americans take less responsibility for their health, choosing to await imagined high-tech miracle cures in a pill. Though it's hardly the ethical high ground to neglect your health and then demand that someone else fix you. Increasing litigation against doctors and hospitals indicate that that's exactly what's happening. To fight the pandemic, Jenny and several colleagues left Genentech to start Raven.
When I left, Genentech was over 3,000 people. And I and several other people from Genentech eventually left and started Raven to have the excitement of a small company with a cell-based approach to drug discovery.
It's remarkable that Raven's unique approach to making better drugs avoids many of the pitfalls of the old small molecule method. Raven can assure higher ethical standards than competitors because it isn't exposed to as many ethical challenges in the first place.
If you look at standard small molecules, it's about 1 out of 10 make it through clinical trials. If you look at antibodies, 1 in 5 make it through. And part of this issue is you have less problem with toxicity.
This technology also has the side benefit of creating a very defensible position for Raven in the marketplace.
They were all coming from the gene to the antibody, and we were coming from the antibody backwards to the gene, that this gave us a lot of freedom to operate and a good patent position compared to most of the field.
Yet, for all this prevention, Raven must still regularly face ethical challenges that it must respond to on a case-by-case basis. For even higher ethical standards, Raven employees sign onto a code of ethical behavior that originates with Jenny herself.
Well, one of the reasons that I decided as a scientific founder to actually take the CEO position originally is I wanted to set the philosophy of the company.
But also Jenny has set the tone in terms of how we interview people, what we look for, characteristics.
It is a conscious, ongoing, day-to-day effort to make sure that people understand it, see what it means in real life, and follow it.
Good ethics start with core values and sound leadership and extend to every person and action in an organization. Maintaining compliance is a constant struggle that requires continuous self-correction.
Society and the business community is too long a timeline and too coarse a gauge to really give you feedback. It has to be on a minute-by-minute, action-by-action basis.
Eventually, all drugs must be tested. While preserving the safety of test subjects is a high priority for companies like Raven, everyone involved, including the test subjects, must be willing to take risks in order to bring new drugs to market. A failed trial can injure or kill test subjects, but the wide release of a drug with damaging side effects can create a devastating health crisis. It's a very tough commitment for all involved.
We first have scientific guidelines to follow in the science that we do before we get ready to file an IND or go to the FDA and say we want to test this, and that includes a lot of what we call toxicology testing, which is animal testing, which some people may not agree with, but we do that to be as safe as we can. But ultimately, there are things you can only find out in people. So we test in cancer patients who have no other options. These are people who are so sick that they have tried everything that's available. I think anybody who volunteers to do one of these clinical trials is heroic. These are people who are dying. These are some of the last days of their life that they could be spending with their family. They are coming in to do something to give back to future people. And it's wonderful. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without them.
A major ethical challenge for drug companies is pricing. With nearly miraculous drugs like the AIDS fighter AZT available, companies are torn between their sworn commitment to help even the most needy people and their very real need to satisfy the stakeholders that keep them in business with healthy profits.
It is, to me, going to be one of the most difficult ethical issues to deal with is how you price these drugs. They're very expensive to make. They take a lot of expertise and a lot of very highly talented people, highly trained people to get them there. We have to, as a society, find some way to spread that cost so that we can make them available to everybody who needs them.
If the path to profit and reinvestment can be found, companies like Raven may achieve nothing short of the reduction or outright elimination of diseases that have haunted the human race since its emergence.
With regards to going after specific types of cancers, I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on here at Raven is going after the most virulent forms of cancer, the pancreatic cancers, the colorectal cancers, things where there's an unmet medical need that we hopefully will fulfill in the next few years here at Raven.